These are the wheels of fortune. Anyone who drives a machine that looks like a pickup truck on steroids has got to feel that way at the start of another Penda Point Series. But a positive spin is one thing. The real work that lies ahead is a whole other ball game. But big jobs are what these trucks are made for. They are, after all, pickups at heart. Trucks and Tractor Power, we feature MTRA Monster Truck Racing. From the Allen County Fairgrounds in Lima, Ohio, it's the Spring Four-Wheel Jamboree National. Lima, Ohio, the first gathering point for the monster trucks as they chase the brand new series of the Penda Point Series. They're going after $60,000 at the end of this rainbow. There's been a lot of changes take place since we had a last time to get together. One of the major changes is last year's world champion, Dan Runte, who drove the Bigfoot Power Wheels to that national championship, is not in that truck. He's in another truck. It's out of the same stable of Bob Chandler's. He'll be driving the original Bigfoot Blue in competition this year. Runte says he can win that championship. That's one of the changes. Another change that I'm really happy to be involved with is a new co-host on the show out of Central Iowa. Dave Reef is going to be working with me this year, and he's over in the pit area right now.
Well, thanks, Army. I definitely look forward to working with you this season. We've already touched on driver changes, but how about a new truck? Behind me, you see the WCW Hulkster-mobile driven by Eric Meagher this season. Comes out of the Bob Chandler Racing stable and features a beautifully crafted GTS fiberglass body and a big old Ford Hemi engine. Now, Steve Grissom has already taken the WCW sponsorship into the winner's circle, NASCAR and Daytona back in February. Well, Bob Chandler says with Eric Meagher, they'd love to add a Penda Points belt to this Hulkster belt.
Well, as you see, Eric Meagher did qualify the Hulkster in the number 2 spot, but the big story is what happened in round 1 to our number 1 qualifier.
And it certainly is a big surprise as the Bearfoot-Fred Shafer out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois, found himself on the line with Dan Patrick's Samson Chevrolet. The Barefoot gets the jump, but watch Samson in the far lane. He muscles his way past the Dodge.
Well, Fred, when you're on top, there's only one way to go, and these guys, they were just flat coming after you. Knew he was going to try to push the tree on you.
Yeah, I did, Army, and, you know, horsepower's not been a problem here. Is what I got to do is get the truck straight and get it handling between the cars, and it got loose on me right then. I had to get out of it. You seen by my qualifying time, we got him covered pretty good by horsepower.
And add insult to injury, Schaefer's time not even quick enough to get a fast loser spot in round number 2. Speaking of new faces, new truck on the circuit, the Hercules of Tim Tesmer. Tesmer is a 9-year veteran of monster truck racing out of Avon, Ohio, and he made a good showing for himself in his debut on the Jamboree circuit with this round 1 win over Brian Welch's moving violation. Tesmer with a 5:31 ET.
Speaking of other new faces, Todd Frolik, the new Dodge teammate for Fred Shafer, comes out in the new black Dodge Rampage. The paint scheme was new, but Alan Pizzo in round 1 ran him hard. The Dodge takes a win. Pizzo, though, showing he can run up top of this field. Second round pairings come out. Samson going against Boogey-Dan, Executioner Bigfoot, Hercules against Rampage, and Hulkster against Overkill.
Well, they're getting the Hulkster ready for round number 2. We'll check out that racing action when we come back.
Welcome back to Allen County Fairgrounds in Lima, Ohio for the 11th annual Big A Auto Parts Spring 4-Wheel Jamboree Nationals. I'm Army Armstrong along with Dave Reef, and we're checking out some of the candy apple and chrome over in the show and shine area. Dave, what have you found?
We kid a lot in this show about how the tough trucks want to fly like the monster machines. Well, down here in the show and shine area, it's no different. We've actually found a monster truck wannabe. Lee Adkins out of South Webster, Ohio, brings his 1979 Ford Bronco Ranger XLT to the show. Ohio bumper laws say it's not street legal, but after an Ohio snowstorm, it sure comes in handy. The truck features a custom-built straight frame with a 429 Cobra jet power plant. The 4-bolt main block has twin Predator carbs strapped to the top, giving the engine more than 500 horsepower. Toss on some military rear ends, giving the truck front and rear steering. Lee says it's built better than Ford Tough. He says it's 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
That'd be a good name for a country song. Well, here's a wounded monster truck, Pam Vaters, going back under the tow rope now. Round 2, she was a fast loser, got back in this thing, narrowly takes a win over Dan Patrick. As a matter of fact, her 509 was just good for a .04 margin of victory, but she hurt it in taking a win and literally bounces over the finish line.
Well, it certainly was close, and right now they're thrashing away in the pits, trying to get the Boogey van back into this thing. Let's send it down to Army, who's standing with Pam Vaters.
Rampage takes on the Hulkster.
Well, as you can tell, Pam Vaters and her crew are in a thrash. Update us real quick.
Well, I got down there at the line. It was like 290, almost 300 degrees. It was real hot, too much for me to, you know, bring it back and everything. So I wanted to get it towed back, but I really didn't even know who won the round or anything like that. I was just worried about the motor.
And a little exercise to boot, jogging over to the interview. Well, on the line right now, Tim Tesmer in Hercules-Todd Frolik in the Dodge Rampage. A couple of new kids on the block, both posting impressive round 1 wins, Army.
Yeah, but both of them know, and they got to make a name for themselves. They got to start doing it now. Todd takes over a real pressure seat in the Dodge Rampage. There's a lot of pressure for these guys to start winning out of the Fred Shafer camp. Meanwhile, Tesmer, he's a privateer driving this Chevrolet-powered vehicle. They move into the lanes. They're ready to go. The starter's ready.
Rick Rice out of Elkhart, Indiana, getting ready to give him the green. We're off.
Got a good run into no man's lane. The Dodge muscles his way out of that far lane to take the win, it looks like to me. Tesmer ran him hard, but the Dodge looks like he will take the win. Yeah, 5:16 ET for the Dodge camp. On the other side of the ledger, the Hulkster comes out. Now, the Hulkster, yeah, the same Hulkster all you kids like, teamed up with a winning combination out of the Bob Chandler shop. You're going to play the game. You might as well step up and play with the big boys. They got Eric Meagher as a driver. Meanwhile, in the other lane, the Overkill truck, Kirk Dabney, a privateer, knows that he's got his work cut out for him. We'll send it down to Dave with Todd Frolik.
Well, Todd, with the absence of Fred Shafer, you're the only Mopar moving on. Good close run there. How'd it feel?
Oh, the truck's feeling great. This is my first year out here. I'm getting used to the track, getting used to the brand new truck here. It's a carbon copy of Fred's, and I think we're going to be in there in the end.
You got to be there at the end if you're going to win. Truck closest to us, not that lucky last year, demolished in this race. I wonder if he's worried about a little deja vu.
Meagher a little sideways coming over the jump, and he hits the line first at a 494. So your second quick qualifier moving on to round number 3 as Kirk Dabney's Extreme Overkill is eliminated.
Last pairing in the second round is Chevrolet, the Executioner, the Hall Brother Racing Team. Mark Hall doing the driving out of Champaign, Illinois. The big story is how he got to the second round. He put away another Chevrolet in the first round. Paul Shafer was that victim.
That's right, the Executioner and the Monster Patrol. Pretty equal coming off the launch, but take a look there in the outside lane. Mark Hall with a 534. He's moving on to round number 2 here, but he's going up against the defending Penda points champion in Dan Runte. He and the Bigfoot crew have been very, very busy this afternoon. No motor problems, just a new starter needed on the Bigfoot Ford. He and his crew, hard at work. They got him ready, and he's back on the line.
Meanwhile, sitting in the other lane, the guy, like the little train, he thinks he can beat the big guys. Far lane, Ford, Power, Big Blue, Bigfoot. Hall waits in the near lane. There's Sage.
Big Blue. Dan Runte in the Ford does it again. A 4.80. A very good run for Dan Runte.
Dan Runte muscling up, showing that he can do exactly what he says. He's talking the talk and walking the walk. Boogey Van advances. Bigfoot, Rampage, and the Hulkster into the next round, Dave.
And if the Boogey Van's going to make the semifinals, they're going to have to get that shoe and that crew member out of that car. They're going to move on if they can get it done. But let's check in with Army, who's with Dan Runte.
Dan, a 480 on a hard run. Those Hall brothers are coming around on you.
They're coming around hard. You know, they're running the clutch. There's a lot of people going to clutches. We're still running a good old Ford C6. We owe a lot to that. Ford and the Firestone tires are working well here today. I can't say enough about that. We're just taking one run at a time. We're getting a little rattled here. We've had a couple little problems, and we'll get them straightened out and be in the finals.
The fans are sure having a good time here. So are we. Come on back. It's semifinal action when we return. Welcome back to Lima, Ohio, where the love affair with these four-wheelers starts at an early age, and so does the ability to get out of the sun, or else, hey, just shed the shirt and go on a little four-wheel wagon ride here at the Allen County Fairgrounds. The four-wheel jamborees are part of the Special Events Performance Series featuring a weekend of four-wheel fun. Here's the manufacturer's midway and all the chrome and beauty of the show and shine area. Contact the Special Events Promotion Company to find out more about the Jamborees and other special events, performance series events. Well, moving now into semifinal action, we find Todd Frolik in the Dodge Rampage going up against that Hulkster vehicle of Eric Meagher.
Also, you're looking at Ford, Dodge, but you're looking at corporate America. They realize they put their name on a winning vehicle. What they say, you win on Sunday, you sell on Monday. Well, there's Ford's representative, the old Hulkster, and in the other lane is the man in black in this sport, the Dodge. And Todd's making a name for himself. Eric Meagher doing a good job driving the Ford camp. You're looking at the evolution of the sport, Dave.
Well, Eric Meagher certainly got a good man in his corner in the Hulkster. He's already got a title belt without even running a race, but he's going to have to go hard here against Todd Frolik in the Dodge Rampage. Pretty equal off the start, but the Hulkster gets the job done over the second series of jumps. A 488 ET as Eric Meagher moves on.
But the big story is the Dodges will not be back. They fired all their shots. They missed their mark. He's going to be going into the trailer. One lady that did make it, though, the Boogey Band crew, they are going to be making it back. As a matter of fact, the black cloud stays over the Dodge team, we understand, Dave.
And it looks like Todd Frolik may have hurt his truck as well. The Dodge Rampage going to need a tow back to the pit area. Meanwhile, we're up for our next race, Bigfoot and the Boogey Van. But before then, Armies with Eric Meagher.
Well, you know you're going to be in the finals. You came to this sport with this sponsorship hoping to win a world championship. You might just be able to be the lead guy in this points chase when you leave here.
Hopefully we will be. When WCW Motorsports jumped on as a sponsor this year, we knew they were serious about motorsports. They're involved in other sports as well. Shows you how far this sport's really come, and I'd love to take a win here at the first race and then ultimately get that championship at the end of the year.
Does it make any difference who you go against in a final? It's either going to be Bigfoot or Boogey Van.
Both are tough competitors. If I had my choice, she's going to be a tough one. I'd like to race Dan, but Pam, she's a tough contender, too. This is going to be a good race right here.
And it's going to be an all-Ford race as Pam Potter's in the Ford Aerostar. She made a couple of finals last year in that van, Army.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, her husband, who's the crew chief on this vehicle, they put a real good motor program together. They know they can step up and run with anybody. They got just as much horsepower as anybody that get in the lane next to them, Dave.
And, of course, the Ford's debuting the new F-150 body style. As you can see, Dan Runte coming to the line. Eric Meagher drove this truck to the opening win at the RCA Dome, but now Dan Runte takes over as Rick Rice gets set to turn these guys loose.
Vaters drilled him on the tree, cut the tree down on Runte, but Runte's horsepower pulls him back on the other end with a 495 win. It was win or lose in no man's land. Runte got it down on the ground first. Replay will show you she moves quicker. Then when they go over the first jump, right here is where Runte can really put some horsepower down. Now he dials the horsepower in, pulls the trigger over the second jump, and literally leaps to the end. So Runte will advance in that F-150. Dave's with him right now.
The defending champion steps out of the Bigfoot-Fred Dan Runte. You made the finals, but another slow start. You had to get her off in no man's land.
Yeah, it did. You know, it's a rough track to drive. It's getting rougher. The ruts are getting bigger. You know, it's just a hard track to start to play now, just because it is getting looser. And Ford Bigfoot's doing fine. We put both our trucks in the final, so we're real happy.
Bigfoot is the most dominant truck ever in monster truck racing. But over in the show and shine area, there's one guy who cleans up every time he shows up at a jamboree. We've seen the 79 Jeep before on Trucks and Tractor Power. It's based out of Detroit, Michigan. And look at all the chrome. Twin supercharged chrome. Complete underpan. Candy apple painted all the way through. As a matter of fact, by the end of the show, this young man had won 4 national categories, such as Best Supercharger, Best Conversion, Best Engine Compartment, and Best Engineering. Congratulations, Rick.
Well, he's certainly won a lot of hardware, but some guys who strap it on each and every day here that don't get a lot of hardware are these guys. The tough truck competition. Stephen Bishop, the Noah's Ark machine. This guy's a self-proclaimed hippie, and look at him go at it.
Hey, I like the guy. What can you say?
And listen to the crowd. They certainly like it, too. Watch as he come back for the big jump here. Stephen Bishop always goes for some big air time. Oh, ouch. Ouch, that thing really flies.
Well, we see what the white 150 would do. We're going to go with the red F250. It'll be Dave Limber. Now, Dave did not attack the track in the first half. He was putting all his marbles in a basket. He was waiting for the very end. He was going to have the crowd standing and cheering as he got ready to go over the final jump. However, if you'll keep an eye on the front of the truck, you'll notice the drive shaft broke. He could not air it out. Whoa.
got a little bit of air coming over that hill, and when it came back down, the front end grabbed and just tore the pinion right out of it.
Yeah, but what a mess getting this tire unstuck. You know, some of the greatest minds in tire unstickiness were on hand trying to get this squared away, but I think this did qualify him for the Olympic javelin catching competition. Well, the volunteer club, very important at the Jamboree, is helping us out, but when it was all over, the tire was out, and the tire wrap was on, and we were ready to move on to tough truck competition, Dave.
And the tough truck's not just limited to the four-wheel machines. Take a look at Steve Sanquinetta in this 1976 Buick Skylark. I don't think it was designed to fly just like this. Very high center of gravity. And take a look at the big bounce coming off of the big shot. Oh, they got to run over that tire. Oh, certainly a good run by Steve Sanquinetta. Tough trucks, lots of fun.
Hey, for all you deadheads, Dwayne Ainsworth, a Jerry Garcia fan for the rest of his life. Oh, Jerry, be proud of you. The Grateful Dead theme. Keeping in mind, one of the Grateful Dead's great song was just called Truckin'. And that's exactly what Dwayne did.
Oh, that sounds like that hurts.
Truckin' his blues away.
Oh, he certainly is. Hey, have you rolled your Chevy lately, Army?
Oh, I hope I really won't.
Well, we're going to flip some burgers. Man, I'm sure getting hungry watching all this tough truck competition. We're coming right back to the Allen County Fairgrounds in Lima, Ohio.
Welcome back to the Jamboree as fun and games continue throughout the day on the midway of the 11th annual Big A Auto Parts Spring 4-Wheel Jamboree Nationals. But right now, what they've come to see is about to happen. It's almost time for the finals as we tour the midway.
That's right. It's our Monster Truck Showdown featuring nothing but fours. Eric Meagher going up against Dan Runte and Army. These trucks are very even.
Yeah, you can call this the Battle of the Blue Oval Bunch. They both come out of the Bob Chandler operation. Even it's kind of like the same thing the NASCAR teams have when you have a two-car team. They have a two-truck team. Everybody's separate.
And as even as we are, maybe we'll get a chance to see who's the better driver. But how about lane conditions? Meagher has the choice. He's picked the fast one. It's the left lane. He's tossed Runte into the right one.
Yeah, but that may not be such a big deal. You got to remember the guy driving the Hulkster used to drive the blue truck. He knows how it's going to react, so he'll know how to adjust this truck. I think we're going to have a real even Steven race.
Rick Rice getting ready to give him the green light. It's our final. Dan Runte and Eric Meagher. Even closer at the finish.
I tell you, I couldn't call it. It was literally a battle of the Blue Oval Bunch. Who's going to be the winner? We're waiting for the official word to come down. I still can't call it.
I don't know. We might have
there
to take
it is.
a look.
Where do we get Runte with the 482? That's an awesome run.
And awesome is the understatement. As you can see, as we take a look again, watch the start. Both Meagher and Runte lightning quick on the reaction time. They keep the back wheels on the ground through the second set of jumps, but watch Meagher. He hits it first, but it's Runte who gets the wheels on the ground, gets the extra bite. He carries it all the way to the finish line. Army's down with Dan Runte, our Penda points winner.
By 2,000ths of a second, you're the man that takes a win, but I got to be real honest with these folks. You came back to the pit area and asked us who won. It must have been dead close down there.
It was real close. You know, like that last race against Pam, you never pay any attention when you're racing somebody like that on who's on the other lane. You know, I had time I had to make up last round. I knew Eric was going to run tough. He ran the left lane all day. I'd been running the left lane. He threw me in the right lane. I had to slow her time the time before. I didn't have a choice. The guys, I mean, a great crew, you know, take you back, pick you up, and tell you, hey, get your head together and let's go racing. Bigfoot-Fred won it.
And on the strength of that win, Bigfoot Racing Team and Dan Runte, your points leader, is Eric Meagher is second. The Dodge of Todd Frolik is third, followed by the Boogey Van-Pam Vaters. A whole host of folks tied at number 5. Army's down with Eric Meagher, our runner-up.
Boy, it must have been close down there.
Oh, it had to be real close. I think he got the whole shot on me, but it looked like we were making up some ground on him. Apparently, we just ran out of ground there.
He told us that he knew you were going to be tough on the tree, plus you put him in the lane he wasn't used to, so he was going to have to get it on the start line and try to hold it off to the other end.
Yeah, exactly. We knew we had lane choice. Let's play a little head games with him, but that's in any competition here. So we came out. He knew we were going to run hard. We also knew he was going to run hard. We're just trying to please all of our sponsors out here.
Well, Army, I think we're going to see a corporate battle all year, but it was all Ford in round number 1.
Yeah, but the season's off. The Penda point chase is on, and it's going to be a great year for racing the big trucks.
And I think we're going to see these guys all season long dueling it out, Bigfoot and the new WCW Hulkster.
Yeah, but don't count on Dodge and Chevrolets out either.
Hey, we certainly hope you had a lot of fun. We did. For Army Armstrong, I'm Dave Reed. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power.
NHRA Today. Next.
Today, Trucks and Tractor Power comes to you from the Allen County Fairgrounds in Lima, Ohio, for the Spring 4-Wheel Jamboree Nationals. Nothing can brighten a gray Ohio day more than all the chrome and candy apple colors of a 4-Wheel Jamboree. And all that polished aftermarket hardware, as well as all the other customizing accessories, are here by the truckloads. Manufacturers Midway at the Jamborees gives these people an opportunity to come and see the latest in tire development, wheel design, color schemes, and what have you. As a matter of fact, that's where we are right now. Speaking of color schemes, check this out. One of the finest pinstripers in the country, Mike Shirey, is showing the people the latest in graphic art design. Notice a little detail here. But that's what's going on in the Manufacturers Midway. We got a competition area, and Dave Reef is standing over there right now. So let's go over to Dave and see what's going to be happening in today's competition.
Army, today we feature mud racing in the cut tire competition. Now, let's refresh your memory real quick here on what makes a cut tire cut. This is a Super Swamper off-road tire that's perfectly DOT street legal. They're $500 a set. From there, they head on to Jimmy Dean in New York, who does another $600 worth of work. These tires are $1,100 a set. These particular ones belong to Fred Wilhite's Money Pit entry. He says that coming into this season, he hasn't changed much, except for one thing. He does sign into the pits as the defending champion. After all, he did win the Cut Tire Jamboree Championship last year.
And making the tow all the way up from Daytona Beach, Florida, yeah, Ford fans, Gary Olstein's here with his Dirty Bird Ford.
Tom Martin, the Super Trooper, shows up with a new sponsor and a new vehicle. More about him a little later on in the show.
Speaking of new sponsors, Dan Brown shows up with a Whittier, California-based blower drive service. He'll be sharing a trailer this year with the defending national champion, Fred Wilhite.
But right now, let's head to the starting line where we find Jeremy Finley in the S-Kicker. He's going to be going up against Mark Dura in the split-second car, one of our rear-engine setup cars this weekend. Mark comes to us out of Moundsville, West Virginia.
Yeah, we're going to be keeping an eye on both these fellas. They draw earlier in the field. The vehicles, the way they're going to react is what everybody's going to be keeping an eye on. Rear motor, solid axle, more rigid. S-Kicker, far side, a real top-end charge.
Jeremy Finley in the S-Kicker. Hold on. Look out. He's heading...
Boy, he had the back pedal on the throttle. Look at that, a 2.7 with a 4. Finley's looking good. Meanwhile, in the other lane, a 3.19. Not going to be the number that driver was looking for.
Well, on the replay, you can see the S-Kicker getting him some horsepower right off the starting line, Army.
Yeah, he picks it up and literally skips across the track. But watch him in the shutdown area. Now, look at his hands. See, he's really starting to work that vehicle. He's trying to hit the throttle to pull it out. He is manhandling this thing like a school bus driver, if you will, but he got it all squared away.
Rodney Covington on the line now. This is first trip back to Lima following a devastating wreck here 2 years ago. Before the race, he spoke with Army Armstrong.
Anybody that's ever seen a Diamond P specialty video, such as And They Walked Away or Shake, Battle, and Roll, has seen this man before. His name is Rodney Covington, and believe me, he has taken one of the most violent rides we've ever seen in the mud racing sports. As a matter of fact, you're really kind of lucky to be with us. That was one of the most violent end-over-end accidents we've ever seen. What goes through your mind now when you're back at Lima, Ohio, getting ready to make that same shot you made a few years ago that was so devastating to you?
Well, you have to put the crash behind you and come back again to another track and race. But, you know, I want to thank the chassis builder. You know, he did an excellent job. That's why I'm still here talking to you on camera. If it wasn't for him, you know, I wouldn't be here from the crash that we had. It's just like the saying says, when you fall off a horse, you have to get up and ride again.
Boy, today's horse is horsepower. He's ready to go. You can tell he's got confidence. He knows he's not going to get hurt if that thing gets away from him.
Going to be taking on Joey Villarreal and Joey Quick, the far lane battle of the 32 Coops. They come to the line.
Well, both of the big guns not getting the run they want. Joey in a Chevrolet-powered vehicle goes to 352. Not a number to be proud of at all. And my main man, who was on his head last year, is in the mud this year. He didn't even make it out of the pit.
Rodney Covington and the Mud Rats, not the only ones getting stuck here in Lima this afternoon. Take a look at this. More Trucks and Tractor Power in a moment. Dave Reef along with Army Armstrong. Glad you're along with us on Trucks and Tractor Power. And for one couple, the 1996 Spring Jamboree Nationals in Lima was a very special event indeed. Jim Schultz and Jill Domhoff of Cortland, Ohio, tied the knot. Presiding over this lovely affair, the Reverend Rhea Book. We certainly wish them a long and happy life together. Speaking of getting hitched, Joey Villarreal got hitched to a tow truck following his run. He's down with Army Armstrong.
Joey, not the way you want to go out of here on the hook. What happened to the car?
I think we lost the rear end. Path felt really good, felt really strong. We've been doing a lot of different changes to the car. Went to a different transmission, had the blower freshened up. We were ready to go, just bad luck of the day.
New rear end in a couple of quarters and, of course, a quick power wash. He'll be good to go. Well, next up, Tom Martin comes to us in the Super Trooper. Corporate sponsorship making its way to the mud pit. Earlier, I took a look at the brand new and improved Super Trooper. When it comes to mud racing, everyone knows the name of Tom Martin. He's a 4-time indoor, 2-time outdoor champion. He won the 93 Jamboree Series, but 2 lean years. This season, Martin starts with a brand new race car from the rear end on up. Where does that come from? Corporate sponsorship in the form of Quaker State and Slick 50. Martin says they've stepped this car up in a very huge way, all the way up to this Keith Black power plant. The missing pieces to the puzzle are now in place. They're ready for a run at the championship, and it all starts today with this car's very first pass.
Well, it'll be a brand new pass, but he's been here before. He's going to be going up in the lane against Mike Camella. Mike will be driving a vehicle that goes by the name of Bonkers. Now, both of them are 32 Ford Vicky body styles. Now, these are just fiberglass look-alike bodies. Both of them run a supercharged Chevrolet engines, generating around 1,500 horsepower. You can tell when Martin's ready to race, he'll put those lights, there you go, flashing lights on top on an on position, indicating he is ready to go.
Don't forget, he won the 1994 Battle Tire Class.
Yeah, but you don't look back, you look forward in this sport. Let's see what's going to happen. Whoa, Camella takes a ride. Check that out. A 2.67 with a 5, Dave.
That's very fast. Tom Martin's not slow either at a 2.690. Possibly one of the quickest side-by-side mud races you're ever going to see, Army.
Well, you know, we go back to the replay. They both leave together. Both of them Chevrolet horsepower. What can I say? It's just a good race, Dave.
Mike Camella maybe getting a little more of the bite out there in the outside area. Army's down with very quick runner and Mike Camella.
Well, here's your new leader right now. That was a good mud race. You and Martin put on a war out there.
Oh, yeah. We always do. The car left real good. It hooked, and it just kept pulling the whole length of the track. It really felt like a good pass. I'm real happy with it.
Dave, over to you and Tom Martin.
A side-by-side show put on by Tom Martin. A second place, but still a 2.69.
Hey, I'm ecstatic with that. First pass on this car, a new sponsor. I got to thank everyone that helped get us here. It was great. We're a little conservative on the engine setup, but it felt great. I'm real happy.
Well, he's tickled to death. Speaking of new cars, Gary Olstein in the Dirty Bird. They're reverting back from the old form. He started with the Thunderbird, and he went to the rail. Now he's coming back with a narrow Thunderbird version. And a little bit earlier, I had a chance to talk with Gary about it.
We made a mold up for just the narrow type body. We took 2 fenders and put them together and made a plug. 40 gallons of Bondo later, we come up with a good plug that we can make a mold off of. And it's just a lot of body work and whatnot. It's 40 hours of Bondo, and I'm going to say at least a good 4 weeks of hard work. And then we finally make a mold off of that plug, and then we produce the body out of the plug.
Osteen will be taking on Mike Behrman, who's busy getting some advice right now from his brother Steve. the Bearman's race with the big 509 blown Audi Rodec on the modified 27 Ford Roadster. They're both veterans. Mike's the 93 and 94 NMRO Cut Tire champion. Brother Steve, the 95 NMRO Open champion.
Yeah, one drives in one class, one drives in the other. Olstein, he likes to go in all the classes. That Ford Thunderbird, different body styles, both Fords. Well, Olstein left real early on that run. Bearman goes a 285 with a 7. And Olstein, believe it or not, red light, then it disqualified.
We're rolling up to the line now. Fred Wilhite in the money pit. He's the defending Jamboree champion in the cut tire category. He builds his own racing chassis. But right now, Army standing by with our red light runner, Mr. Gary Osteen.
Gary, what was going on up on the starting line?
I was trying to cut me a good light. It evidently didn't work if that red light come on. I don't know.
Yeah, it was dead red.
Was it? All right, well, I reckon I messed up and pulled me a good red light out of there, huh?
Tough break for Osteen as he throws away a 277. But meanwhile, now on the line, Brian Fry in the midnight special. He'll be in the near lane taking on Fred Wilhite.
Wilhite, the guy with a little dingleberry helmet, always puts on a show. Knows what it's going to take. Just pure raw horsepower and a good start. Got the start, has the horsepower, and trying to get her shut down. A 281. Number wasn't what he was looking for at all. He's about 2/10 off.
Brian Fry in the midnight special runs a 3.595. A little disappointing, I'm sure, for Mr. Fry, but hey, you get one shot at this. It's got to be now or never. When we come back, more mud racing, trucks and tractor power. Sunshine, welcome back to the Allen County Fairgrounds in Lima, Ohio. Pit side, let's send it down to Army.
We keep talking about these guys and the horsepower they make and the different fuel they use to make horsepower. This is an alcohol-burning engine. I want you to look at it. They just finished a run. I can put my hand on the engine here. You can actually see the alcohol was burning so cool that it actually has a condensation there. Actually, this engine, the more fuel you run into it and the more horsepower you make, the cooler it's actually going to be. That's methanol alcohol fuel for you. Back to you, Dave.
Next up, Dan Brown, who comes to all these events in the same trailer as Fred Wilhite. He'll be driving the Mind Games 2, which is a Power Pro 23 altered, blown 600 cubic inch Pontiac. Now, Brown won this event in 1994.
Yeah, but the guy that won it in 1995 is going to be in the other lane. Goes by the name of the Rapid Transit. Al Stebbins out of Enterprise, Florida. Relies on Chevrolet for horsepower. Both vehicles, one a Pontiac, the other one a Chevrolet, generating around 1,500 horsepower. Both 23 altered type chassis. Stebbins goes through like a rocket and had a little trouble shutting it down with the 277. But the big story was Brown not getting out of the pit at all.
That's right, his time of 4.590, and he's still stuck in the mud. Well, let's check at the current standings. Find Mike Comella on top with a 267. Right behind him, Tom Martin in a 269. Those runs came out of the same race.
Jeremy Finley draws early, goes to a 277, but Al Stebbins, that's a 277 on this pass right here later in the field. Look how tough it is for him driving. We noted earlier how the other drivers were having problems. Stebbins is too.
Chuck Noll, the defending Jamboree Class 6 champion, calls this a 1968 Ford Bronco, and he relies on the Ford Power out of Palm Harbor, Florida.
This is an open version of that type of vehicle, if you will allow me to say that. He'll be going up against T-Rat in the other lane out of the Bluegrass State of Kentucky. Jeff Ballard doing the driving out of Mount Sterling, Kentucky. The vehicle's owned by a school teacher down there. Jeff's doing the driving. As both of them work diligently, trying to get into the lights ever so gently so they can bump it when it goes green.
Well, both drivers come off equal. Both drivers come off equal, but they don't end up that way. Chuck Nolan, the stepchild, runs a 308 with a 5.
Yeah, Ballard goes a 3025. And what you saw there was Noah actually had to hit the throttle in order to settle the vehicle down. Watch him when he comes out of the pit. He'll be on the left of the screen. The wind comes out of the right side of the screen. But watch the problems the left side has. The right side takes a bounce and goes straight. The left side, watch him hit the gas right here. See, trying to settle the vehicle down.
Well, in all instances, spinning the wheels doesn't always get the car settled back. But for Chuck Noll, that's exactly what happened. Army's down with him.
Well, we keep telling everybody about running them on kill. That's exactly what happened here. Chuck, you come out of the pit and hook to the right on you. But I noticed even with all your face shield and everything, you had a face load of mud. Could you see the finish line?
Not really, Army. The car was so loose, the line's loose up there, and the car was all in the ruts and that, and she over-revved on us. We had too much power.
Well, spinning the tires gets the car back into Shafer, Chuck Knoll, but hopefully not any internal damage done by over-revving. Well, now we go to Brian Belanda, the boss, on a single 27 Model T Ford with a 575 Ford power plant.
It was a Hemi Ford power plant. You're seeing a lot of these motors starting to show up now in this Ford. Got to go quicker than 267. What's the number, Dave?
He's across the stripe, not quite there, at a 2.874. Still a good run for Brian Belanda. Let's go to some highlights. Rob Marshall in beating the odds. The big Keith Black Hemi has problems, as you can see here on the start, and only runs a 3.48. Not a good time for Rob Marshall. Over in the other lane, David Whitehurst, one of the young rising stars in the sport, lays down a good shot. Listen to this motor sing. Afterwards, he talked with Army.
287 for the kid with the long hair. Not a bad number out there at all.
Pretty bad track. We just did the best we could. Tried to line up in a good spot and just held into it.
Looked like a lot of lump in the middle.
Yeah, there is. It's rough, and car was all over the track.
And all that engine hum, just a little overdrive on the floor, but still a good time. Well, now we move to Tom Nyhus in the rear engine powered Rude Awakening. Hot off the line, Tom lays down a good shot.
298's a good number, but it looked like you still didn't get it to stick on the starting line for you.
Yeah, the start line was very hard, and it just blew the tires off the car.
David Bolser is a real live wire on this run. Check this out. He hits the timing cone on the big end and is disqualified. There you see the cone falling down. Nitrous injected and normally aspirated. Can't touch this if Steve Pryor powers his way to a 359. Still no one out in front of Mike Comella.
You know, in the 3 days of this event, over 35,000 people will enjoy all the action. Here's mud in your eyes. We're going to break.
And from the midway, let's take you back inside the competition area where your leader, Mike Comella, has just one more pair of drivers to sit through.
Yeah, and he's going to be sitting real nervous as Mike Lane in Wicked Sensation is going to be going to the line in a 23 altered powered by 468 blown Chevrolet engine. The track has been going away. That may be to the advantage of our leader. Meanwhile, in the other lane, Dave.
Charlie Durbin, the axle breaker out of New Albany, Indiana. It's the last chance. See if anybody can catch the 267 of Mike Comella.
Durbin in the Jeep appearing vehicle. It's a fiberglass replica. A little out of shape. Oh, out of shape bad, Dave. Oh, he goes over. Durbin's on top.
Charlie Durbin puts it over on its lid. Both those drivers almost gaining contact. I don't know if they actually did touch, but you can see Charlie Durbin trying to get out of that car.
No, I don't think contact was made. We're going to find out real quick. Durbin moved first. It was a good run going for the Jeep vehicle. Took a little bit of a bounce in the middle. Meanwhile, the altered comes on the big end. Now they both come out of the pit, and they're trying to slide to a stop. No, they did not make contact. But Tag, he goes over. It's a slow roll. He did some damage, I believe. On the throttle, too. You can see how the tires slung out back there. When he went over, he hit the throttle.
And another angle of this. Both those guys got off the line really well, but watch Charlie Durbin fighting his way to the end, begins the slide, and then those big scoop tires take a big old bite. Durbin goes over the top. Army's down with Charlie Durbin.
Even when you have a wreck, you got paperwork. The EMTs have checked the driver over. First of all, do you have any idea what happened out there?
No, I have no idea. I thought I was doing good. Next thing you know, I was going over.
You were just doing good upside down. EMTs, real quick, y'all right on the spot. You looked at him.
When I got to the end, I was going to the right, and I think I ramped the bale of hay and it flipped me.
Okay, ramp the bale of hay is the word. How about the EMT? It's all about safety, isn't it?
That's right. That in their life.
We know we appreciate the EMTs and what they're doing along the safety crews, and the vehicles do have to pass safety inspections. It took a hard roll. He's going to be all right. So another time, another day, he may make the winner's circle.
Of course, let's not forget to mention, Army, in that last pass, Mike Lane did run a 2.85, a very fast time, but not quick enough to get him in to the top 5 as Mike Comella wins the event with a 267. Tom Martin's 269, really strong, but it's Mike Comella who wins.
You talk about the name Bonkers, it's appropriate. Both first and second times come out of the same heat race. That was a war out there between you and Tom Martin, Mike.
Oh, yeah, Tom and I always run good together. Car left on me, chugged the motor down a little bit, but once the dart heads picked up, horsepower at the big end was phenomenal. I just made a lot of mile an hour, and that's where I think I won the race.
Quaker State's had a long-standing commitment to NASCAR. Steve Kinzer won the Knoxville Nationals with the sponsorship fast out of the box last year. Now Tom Martin, a solid showing today, second. Hey, Quaker State's quick out of the box.
Yeah, me and Mike, we battle it out all winter on the indoor circuit. We come out here, we run 1 and 2. It's a miracle, you know. We have a great team put together this year, and we're going for the title.
Well, the axle breaker lived up to its name today on the last pass. And, of course, these two guys put on quite a show. 1 and 2 out of the same heat. So, for Dave Reef and our entire crew, I'm Army Armstrong. Hey, we'll catch you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power.
Hey, Army man, there's a lot of good-looking trucks here. You're having a pretty nice one yourself.
Well, I tell you what, looks like you caught on to this four-wheel off-road jamboree fan real quick yourself. You know, in Lima, Ohio, each year over 1,500 trucks gather from as far away as Florida to compete to find out who has the best 4x4 truck in America.
I know there's more in the show and shine. There's got to be some competition.
Yeah, they got a competition area over here. As a matter of fact, in just a few minutes, they're supposed to be running the Class 6 mud racers.
Well, we got to get a place to park. I ain't missing this.
Hey, is there any base down there?
I haven't found anything, but I'll check down here.
Okay.
Trucks and Tractor Power without a place to park, but we did find one and we're ready to go. It's time for some mud racing in Lima, Ohio. When it comes to mud racing in the Allen County Fairgrounds, most racers agree that this is a track that's too tough to tame. Case in point, Rob Marshall in Beating the Odds. Competing in last year's Class 6 competition, Rob entered the shutdown area looking to make a slide correction, but the slide opportunity never came. Rob took a wild ride as the car developed a mind of its own, end rolling and completely shedding the body. The chassis holds true to form, though, as Marshall was able to race the same car 1 week later. In today's competition, however, Rob looks to be the one beating the odds. He will come out of the same lane that took a bite out of him here last year. Army?
David, another fella that's tasted the bite of that left lane at Lima, Ohio. The vehicle, the axle breaker. Charlie Durbin doing the driving in the Class 5 competition. Flipped it end over end coming out of the left lane, just like your man over there. But he attributes the flip to the fact that it was a real dry area he was trying to shut down in. He could not actually slide the car. You got to remember, when you come out of these pits, you need to be able to slide them to scruff off speed. Charlie flipped the vehicle. They stayed up all night long, got it back together. It looks like they're going to make the Class 6 call, but the word in the pit area is, you better come out of this pit straight, or you might wind up just like the axle breaker.
Well, all of these drivers, like Mike Comella and Bonkers you see here, getting ready to go. They're well aware of the spills we've seen here in Lima.
Well, Rodney Covington in the mud rat. Now, this guy took one of the wildest rides we've ever seen here at the Allen County Fairground.
And Dan Brown, what a violent crash he had in Bloomsburg last season. All these guys have had to jump back on the horse that's bit them. Let's hope we have a good, safe day of racing here today.
The Allen County Fairgrounds notorious for that shutdown area. The guys can go real fast through the mud, but when they get into the shutdown area, it's a hard pack mud. Jeremy Finley's going to be coming out of the Bluefield, West Virginia area in the S-Kicker. He'll be going up against the Ford-powered Boss.
That's right, Jeff Myers in this 1927 Ford with a 575 Ford power plant. He comes to us out of Holland, Michigan, driving the Boss.
Whoa, Finley comes out there like a rocket. He gets the shutdown okay on that big end. Meanwhile, in the other lane, the Boss Ford of Jeff Myers not going to make it through. Now, that'll make real bad ruts for those that are sitting in the lanes behind him. Let's go down trackside. I believe Dave caught up with Jeremy Finley.
Wildman Finley, a great first run out of the near lane at 2.74.
Yeah, it was a good run. It hooked up once it got off the line, went out the other end flying.
We'll just step aside, stand on some high ground while they clean up this mess. We'll be back with more mud action. Stay tuned.
There you go.
Well, you know, these fans know a thing or two about tailgating, but we're mud racing, so let's send it over to a guy who knows a thing or two about mud.
David, you're looking at the starting line 180 feet away from where I'm standing right now. I want you to notice how dark the mud is to actually run in. Then they come out of the mud past the finish line, and look at the clay surface here, how light it is. Plus, look how hard it is. Now, you got to remember, in mud racing, these guys want to come out of this pit and turn the vehicle sideways to scuff off speed. So the track officials have actually come outside the track area, and if you'll notice now, they've watered down the shutdown area. What this does, it allows the drivers to get a good run, come out of the pit, have 30 feet to get the vehicle straight, and then throw it into a slide to scuff off the speed if they need to do so.
Or in this case, get the vehicles out of the bog. The boss machine of Jeff Myers is out, so we continue now with Roger Sherwood in the stressed out machine.
He'll be going up against Mike Camella, the guy who won the cut tire class here. So Camella's got to read on the track. There's the NMRO official who always ducks when he throws the button. He's the starter. Whoa, Camella almost goes over. Very wisely backpedals on the vehicle, took the timing equipment out, but he's going to be able to walk away from this one.
Meanwhile, Roger Sherwood in the stressed out runs a 286 on the ET time, but that left lane posing some problems, Army.
Well, Camella's in the left lane. Remember the guy in front of him, the boss, he didn't go all the way through. You can see right there where that vehicle stopped. He just hooked a rut bad. Now, that lane should be bad for the rest of the day until somebody can go through and make it straight ruts, like a railroad track, Dave.
Well, it certainly was everything he could do to get that machine stopped. Army caught up with him as soon as it did.
Mike, the motor was hitting hard. It looked like you had this thing on kill. What happened out there at half track?
Yeah, we had it on kill. We wanted to win today, and hooked a rut, left real hard. I hooked that rut, and it just pulled the car right. Nothing I could do but hold on and just keep it upright, and that's all we were trying to do.
Out of curiosity now, they do not groom the track in between runs. What's this going to do for the competitors behind you in the very same lane? You hooked a rut, but you left some ruts going out of bounds. Is that going to make that a bad lane for the rest of the day?
It might, but, you know, if you take it a little bit to the left, I think they might be all right. I think the right lane is a little bit better today, though.
Well, a little mud in the eye for Mike Comella as Shane back, and the attitude adjuster comes to us now in the near lane. 2 years ago, he flipped right here, but this is a new car, the 23 Alter T body style that's so popular with many of these mud racers, Army.
Well, he'll be going up against none other than Decatur, Illinois' own Fred Wilhite in the other lane. That's Colonel Shane back, by the way. He is an auctioneer out of the Bluegrass State.
Of course, he won this event a year ago, did Fred Wilhite. Time to beat a 274.
And each one of these guys are capable of doing that, Dave. Oh, what a ride. Back's in trouble. He's going to high-side it, David. He goes over.
Holy cow, Shane back. And the attitude adjuster gets a little attitude adjustment himself.
He's moving around in the vehicle, but as he's starting to climb out. But on the other side, you can't see Fred Wilhite, who he's racing. He's going to be the first on the scene. He comes over to check his buddy out.
Well, 2.479. How about that? First ingredient, Fred Wilhite, as we mentioned, is that look over the bent car. The fans sure love this one.
Shane, Fred comes over and immediately grabs. Make sure you're okay. The safety crew's right on hand, but do you have any idea what caused it? Is it that Lima rut you hook when you come out of this track?
It's that Lima rut, Army. I did that about, not last year, but year before. I flipped out of the other lane. Now I flipped out of this lane, so we're 1 for 1, I guess.
Are you okay?
Oh, yeah, just fine.
Fred, I noticed you guys run hard against each other. You were the first guy over here. To go to the line, you guys put the war paint on. But when you go out of this pit, you're good friends, aren't you?
Yeah, I knew that was going to be a hell of a side-by-side run. We both run strong, but his car didn't look right when I come out of the finish line. I seen what it was.
I'm glad you're both okay, fellas.
And a testament to the sport as we get to see here on replay once again. The attitude adjuster 2.5 times, maybe 3 times over the top, but the cage holds, Army.
Yeah, and he actually landed on the cage. What he did, he slid through the water they had down there to make it slippery. He actually slid through it and then hooked it. And then, what do you call it in sprint car racing? That's nothing more than old-style high side.
Yep, he hopped the cushion, and he did so, as we said, 2.5 times, but fortunately, Shane does crawl out uninjured, but the car, a little different story.
Yeah, but we will give him 9.75 in style points, I guess.
Certainly. Well, a man who's no stranger to flipping a car, none of these guys are, but Charlie Durbin surely not. He flipped in the Class 5 competition, the axle breaker out of New Albany, Indiana.
Now, sitting in the other lane will be Dave Check. He'll be driving the Super Jeep vehicle. A lot of people like this Jeep style. I say a Jeep, it's a Jeep appearing as a fiberglass replica. Remember the opening when we used this vehicle, and I told you that he had to get out of this pit straight if he was going to make a good run and not flip.
A good side-by-side. Hold on! Oh, how about that for irony? Charlie Durbin keeps it straight, and he still gets banged up as David Chick slides over. Army, the only two cars that aren't smashed up, it seems like, are the ones we rode in earlier.
They came out there and said, right turn, Clyde, and that's exactly what happened. At 312, Chick made a good run, but again, you come out of that pit, the least messed up, you're in trouble.
Well, what makes the Super Jeep super slick? Let's find out. David Chick off the line, starts to go out to the left, and never really gets it back. Crosses the finish line. The machine starts to careen into the right lane. Durbin has nowhere to go. The two drivers gain contact. Fortunately, nobody gets over. Charlie Durbin, though, runs a 309. He's down with Army to talk about it.
What did happen out there? You came out the end, then what happened?
The left side got me. Well, yesterday, the left side, I come to the right. Today, the left side come to the right, but I was in the right, and he got me.
So it's kind of like an old street fight slogan. If the left side don't get you, the right one will, right?
The left side got me. If I drive in, if I drive in the right, the left one comes across and gets me anyway. So can't get away from that left lane.
Well, coming up, Rob Marshall is suiting up. Will he beat the odds? Fred's calling the folks back home, telling them to turn on TNN. We've got one heck of a mud race going on. Welcome back to Lima, Ohio. A contrast to some of the mud racing. Guaranteed they're not tearing any equipment up here, Army.
No, I tell you what, in the show and shine area, we have a plethora of chrome and candy apple. Quite the opposite on the other side of the fence where it's a world of mud. You know, you might call this a lady in brown. If Darlington's a lady in black, in our sport, this has got to be the lady in brown.
Tom Martin and his Super Troopers up next. He finished second in the Class 5 cut tire competition. He'll be going up against Steve Behrman, the Class 6 winner at Indianapolis last year. And you can see Martin out of Portage, Indiana, in the Super Trooper, the first of the corporate-sponsored cars.
Yeah, and the Behrman brothers, their father owns a big dairy farm operation up there. Steve doing the driving in this class out of Holland, Michigan, in a 27 Ford Roadster powered by an Ottie's Automotive, New York-built Chevrolet power plant. So this could be a good run here. Watch the flagman. The last thing he does, he'll duck. I love it. There he goes.
Well, Martin gets the shot, but let's see who wins it at the tape.
Behrman had a little problem with a 283, and he was crooked right off the starting line, Dave.
But Tom Martin at 2.899. Just a little bit slower as we take a look at the Fast Five. Shane Back gets on his back to a 247, and following him are Fred Wilhite, Jeremy Finley, Steve Behrman's run just a moment ago, good enough for fourth, and following him, Roger Sherwood. Talking about Steve Behrman, you're going to need a power washer to get all the mud off of that truck.
Speaking of power, look who's rolling out now. Dan Brown himself in the Mind Game, sponsored by the Whittier, California Blades Blower Dry Service. He'll be going up against Tom Nyhus in the Rude Awakening vehicle, rear engine against front motor. This could be a real good run here. It was a good run.
Especially considering it was a rear engine car. Tom Nyhus in Rude Awakening at 291 at 7.
Yeah, but the big story may be out of the lane. They called the bad lane with a 267. Dan Brown just built him a new road over there, and I think it was a freeway, as he lays down a shot as straight as an arrow out of that lane. Dave's caught up with him down in the pit area. Let's see what he has to say.
Dan Brown in Mind Games at 267. Good enough for third quick so far.
Oh, thank you, guys. I don't know. The BDS car was running okay, but we had didn't turn the R's. The thing's a little fat, but maybe that would have been okay because the line didn't have really anything to hook to out there. It seemed like it just was coming on awful strong, but we didn't run out of track.
Well, at the beginning of the show, Dave, you were talking about Rob Marshall, and can he beat the odds? That's the big question right now. Here comes your boys going to the line out of New Albany, Indiana. Rob Marshall.
Well, it's like Rob's going up against the track, but the competitor is Rodney Covington. He's taken the wildest ride ever at the Allen County Fairgrounds in the mud rat. Both of these drivers knowing what it's like to get upside down here in Lima. Time to beat a 247.
Oh, wheels up, run, and one. It looks like your man's going over, Dave.
Oh, Rob Marshall beating the odds, but the odds get the best of him. Again, ending up upside down here at Lima. A tough break for Marshall.
Meanwhile, Covington goes to 267, so the track's not going away at all.
That's good enough for third place. As you can see, Rob Marshall climbing out of that race car once again. It's a tough thing to do here. He's got to be getting used to it, but the fans sure appreciate the run.
I bet he's thinking, I don't want to come back here and race ever again. Well, while they're riding the vehicle, we're going to go back and look and see if we can figure out what happened, because the run looked perfect. He comes out on a good start, makes a good straight run. The problem happened at the end. The back end starting to move a little bit to the left. He comes around, does not overcompensate. The left front wheel locks up. Now the right front wheel. Now he hooks a dry rut and just about made it over. Not going to be the case. Dave's with him down in the pit area right now. Dave?
Rob Marshall beating the odds. 2 for 2. They get you here out of that far lane again, but this one a little softer at least.
Well, that's true. This is a great track to run, I tell you. It seems to happen quite often. So,
what happened out there?
Well, I just got out of shape. I went towards the barriers. If I could have throttled it, I would have been able to pull out of it. But if I had I'd have put it into them. So I tried a little bit, but it didn't seem to do much good.
At least the damage is not as bad for beating the odds.
It's not as bad as it was last year.
Well, like my old track coach said, if a frog had wings, we'll be back with more action later.
Come back. The 2.479, the time to beat Chuck Knoll. We'll get a chance to see if he can beat it here in a minute. But first we take you inside the control room, and I guess that means it's time for some highlights. Well, this is a fine mess Joey Quick has found himself in, courtesy of this little tangle with a far lane. On a day like today, probably not the worst thing to happen. Joey, usually a pretty strong runner. He'll be back another time. A couple of naturally aspirated vehicles. Dave Bolser's live wire in the near, but watch the wild ride out of the far lane. Bob Dunham takes Rolling Thunder in the far lane. He was DQ'd. Next up, Gary Osteen in the new Dirty Bird body style. He joins the 2-second club here in Lima with this nice 2.98 rocket shot.
Meanwhile, back at the starting line with more action, Jeff Ballard rolls out in the Trash Rat. Now, this car took a flip a year ago when it was being driven by Stanley Trimble. He's a Kentucky school teacher. Ballard, the auto auctioneer we told you about, we call him the Colonel. Who's he going to be going up against? None other than Florida's own Al Stebbins. Makes a long trek up here. He won the class last year. We'd like to see if he can make it 2 years in a row, but he definitely has his work cut out for him. The big numbers are on the board, Dave.
Both these drivers getting into the stage areas. We get a chance to see the mug of Al Stebbins. Enterprise, Florida, the hometown, and he'd like to be an enterprising driver right here and kind of beat that 2.479. Let's find out if he can do it.
Whoa, Stebbins out of shape in one lane, back at his hands full in the other lane. Disqualification comes up official for Stebbins. Ballard a 3:05, so he had to backpedal. No way the number he was looking for, Dave.
Well, just 2 more bullets to dodge for Shane Back. He's the one in the middle sitting next to Fred Wilhite.
One of the two you got to dodge is the Psycho, and the other one the Stepchild. Now, both of these guys would go tap dancing in a minefield. I'm telling you, they got a mindset. They do not know what the word fear is.
The other guy you're talking about, Army, David Whitehurst out of Herndon, Virginia. Drives the Psycho. That's a good name for that race car. Remember, though, Chuck Knoll is the guy that won the Class 6 championship in the Jamboree season last year.
You know, and I was noticing Knoll's doing what they call a dry hop in the sport of drag racing. They're trying to beat a 2:47. Bolster stage. Whoa! Big hop out of Psycho, and Knoll's in trouble. Now Psycho's in trouble.
Well, both drivers keep it straight. They're the only two that can dethrone Shane Back. Chuck Knoll, not good enough at a 3:19. David Whitehurst, the Psycho machine, a 2:83. Shane Back is your winner.
Well, Shane Back, step on down here real quick. You're going to take the win. The notorious Lima track. A win with a flip, but a win is a win.
A win is a win. That makes the flip more worthwhile, I guess. We thank the good Lord everything was safe today, and we thank all of our sponsors, especially my engine man, Jerry Brumley. Had a little engine trouble before we got, but I believe we got it worked out, and hope we make Wisconsin next weekend.
Well, over the top, getting a whole new meaning here today as Shane Back takes the win. Following him are Fred Wilhite and Rodney Covington. Dan Brown runs 4th with Jeremy Finley 5th. Let's send it over to Army with David Whitehurst.
Good run. Sound like you're making a lot of horsepower, but a big bounce at the end of the track.
Yeah, the car hooked up great, ran straight, but the end of the track, kind of veered off to the right, and there's a big bump out there, and it sent me airborne.
Tell you what, you almost have to be a psycho to drive one of these things.
Some of the driving we've seen here today, certainly testimony to that. Here's one more look at poor Charlie Durbin getting T-boned by David Chick and the Super Jeep. And then it's poor Rob Marshall just trying to avoid the same fate as last year. He didn't tear off the fiberglass, but he still ended up right on his hat. And then one last look at what it took to win here in Lima.
Boy, what a race. First and second place come out of one heat. But the winner had to get on his head to do it. You think these guys don't run on kill? You are wrong, my friend. Loving every minute of it, tearing up a lot of equipment, but hey, that's mud racing at the Jamborees, Dave.
And of course, one of the nice things we saw about this, Fred Wilhite out of that car immediately over.
And Tractor Power, we feature MTRA Monster Truck Racing. From Allen County Fairgrounds in Lima, Ohio, it's the Springs 4-Wheel Jamboree Nationals. Well, I probably got the best seat in the house of Lima, Ohio. My two buddies and I are riding in the Snakebite Cruiser Ride. It's an obstacle course set up on the info where you buy a ticket and take a ride, and that's exactly what I've done. But over the years, if you follow the circuit, you know that Snakebite is taking a bunch of wild rides here. He's gone on his side and pulled it out. He's nosed it all the way on the other end. As a matter of fact, just a few years ago, stopped with this just in inches of the barricade on the end of the track. We're not going to take that wild a ride today with this Snakebite Cruiser because Snakebite's not here in the race form. He's just here in the cruiser form. But I tell you somebody that is here in the race form, and he's not having a very good year this year. With more on that story, let's go over to the competition area and Dave Reef.
And that heavy hitter, Fred Shafer, driver of the Barefoot Dodge you see behind me here. Now, Fred's had no problems with success here in Lima. In fact, it was just 1 year ago when he set the fastest ever monster truck run in recorded history, a 4.64. Fred got off on the right foot in qualifying in the very first Penda points race this year. He was the fastest among 13 trucks. But then in the first round of competition, the Barefoot Dodge met up against the Samson Chevrolet of Dan Patrick. Barefoot gets off course. Samson takes the win. And to add insult to injury, Schaefer's time not among the quick losers. He misses the final 8 cut and spots the Ford boys a lot of points. But I had a chance to talk with Fred today. He says he's still got a lot of faith in this Dodge Hemi engine. He says it's a very fast runner, and if he can keep it straight, he's got something for the Ford boys.
Speaking of having something, Shafer goes into 493. That puts him third quick, but look at 1 and 2 quick. They're both Fords. Patrick in a Chevrolet and Welch in a Chevrolet rounding out the top 5 on the qualifying ladder.
Well, Fred Shafer was able to get out of round 1, but very close to being eliminated again going up against Alan Pizzo. The Barefoot roars just a little bit louder. Brian Welch in moving violation comes into this race as the number 5 qualifier, but he's a little late on the light. But he gets a little luck as Pam Vaters blows an engine. Welch is moving on to round 2.
I anticipated the light a little wrong there. The second stage light was still flickering, and he went ahead and hit the tree. So hopefully the starter will get that all under control, and we'll move on to the next round. We'll see if we can find some more power here.
Bit of a thrash in the Hulkster pit heading into their round 1 run.
Yeah, before the round 1 competition, they had a starter go away, so immediately the crew jumps on the truck, puts it back together, and he claims Paul Shafer in this first round win. And the truck really looks like it is making awesome horsepower today, Dave.
And that's not the only thing that happened in round 1, Army.
Fuel check was the big question. Each team, Barefoot and Bigfoot, blaming each other for running additive, so the crews said, okay, we'll draw some out. The MTRA official said, you bet you will. We're going to take it back to St. Louis and have it analyzed to see what kind of fuel you are running.
Well, Army, here's the way we look heading into round 2. Executioner and Monster Patrol, your fast losers now as we get set for the final 8. The NASCAR game, a lot of fun as well as we see replicas of 2 guys from the Owensboro area. That's Army Armstrong area. Of course, DW and Brother Michael, but I guess that's Johnny Benson in the Pennzoil car now.
Yeah, I just wonder where the Jeremy Mayfield 98 car is. He's from Owensboro, Kentucky, too, you know.
Round 2 action when Trucks and Tractor Power returns.
Welcome back to the Allen County Fairground in Lima, Ohio for the 11th annual Big A Auto Parts Spring 4-Wheel Jamboree Nationals. I'm Army Armstrong along with Dave Reefin. Looks like your head got the good assignment today, Dave.
Well, certainly one of the many facets of the Jamboree, the Miss Spring 4-Wheel Jamboree Contest. As you can tell, it's one of the more popular attractions on the Midway for the light truck enthusiast. Our winner was Shonda McComb. She said she was going to take her kids to the Cedar Point Amusement Park with her winnings from the contest. Amy Adair to the right of your screen was the first runner-up. Donna Robinson, the second runner-up. And right now we head back to round 2 racing in the competition area. And a good look at Dan Runte in the Bigfoot Ford, your current points leader, heading into round number 2. He's going up against Paul Shafer in Monster Patrol. And Paul's no stranger to racing as well. A world champion mud racer, a very successful businessman, and an innovator. Earlier, Army took a look at Paul Shafer's newest contraption.
Paul Shafer and the Monster Patrol crew have solved one of the major problems that have faced drivers in this sport for years. The problem? How do you change a tire on a 10,000-pound monster truck when each tire weighs 700 pounds and you're only allowed 3 crew members over the wall, if you will, to change that tire? Well, Paul came up with a hydraulic and electric setup here with a motor and a hydraulic system that's very similar to the Jaws of Life. All you do is you just flip this switch, hit this crank, and this 10,000-pound monster truck goes up with no problem whatsoever. So basically, you take the technology that you get from the Jaws of Life that you use to get people out of an accident, and in this case, instead of getting them out, you get in the truck up. That's when you change the tires.
Time to get jacked up right now for round number 2, though, as Dan Runte in the Bigfoot Ford is going to go up against Paul Shafer in the Monster Patrol.
Boy, Dan Runte put a hole shot on that right lane tree. Shafer, boy, did not have a prayer. Ford moves again into the next round. You know that Ford has not lost even a round so far this year.
That's been pretty dominating. Speaking of dominating, what about the WCW Hulkster, our round 1 quick qualifier who finished second to Dan Runte? He's going up against the executioner of Tim Hall.
You know, that's an interesting race here because both young drivers, and Mark Hall and Tim Hall, are the brother team out of Champaign, Illinois. Mark doing the driving is one of the most underrated drivers in the sport. These guys are a victory looking to happen. Will it happen today? I don't know. These Fords seem to be having a hot hand, but this Chevrolet's not rolling over on them at all, Dave.
Well, they're on the way in the Hulkster, flexing his muscles. Once again, the WCW car crosses the finish line first. A 4:84, a good time for Eric Meagher and Tim Hall and the executioner. They're going to have to wait to race another day.
You know, but there's kind of an interesting point here as we got a top-end camera. I want you to watch the front of the truck on your left and to see if indeed his front tires did make contact, both front tires, with that second obstacle. We may have a disqual. No, I don't think they did.
Well,
the driver's side tires, yeah, the driver's side tires. Let's see what the officials do about this, but that should be a DQ run.
Well, they're taking a look at the replay as we speak. You can see Eric Meagher, a very concerned driver, Tim Hall, and a lot of the drivers getting around to take a look at this replay with the officials.
Well, I tell you, the replay won't lie, and the drivers know that if he was wrong, they're going to see it on the replay.
And another look here, you can see the left front tires. They need to both touch the set of cars. They're outside the line. Special events people and track officials taking a look. They've made their decision. Eric Meagher has been disqualified. He's standing by with Army.
Hulk Hogan had to wait for another day to go into the winner's circle. Eric, the big question is about this tire right here. They're saying that this tire did not go over the cars on the end. Now, there's a little stake down there, and they're saying that had you gone over that, you would have knocked that stake down with the tires. After your pass, the stake was still up. They assumed you were out of bounds.
Yeah, as it stands out right now, Army, they've checked the tape. The track official has designated the truck as being DQ'd. I haven't seen it yet. I feel I was over. I don't know extremely how far or how close the call was, but we're going to have to go with that call, and I'm sure we'll check it out at the end of the race.
So the Ford team having a problem keeping things straight. And, hey, let's see if Fred Shafer in the Barefoot Dodge can do it as well. He's had a problem with it. He's going up against Brian Welch in moving violation to close out round number 2.
You know, Fred's problem has not been horsepower. Ever since this Dodge Hemi's teamed up with the Lenati camshaft people, they make buku horsepower. The problem is, which way is the truck going to go in no man's land? And with the truck in front of him having a problem missing the ramp, I'll guarantee you Fred Shafer is very, very aware of that.
Well, Brian Welch out of Chicago, Illinois, pilot of the moving violation vehicle. He's going to do all he can against Fred Shafer, but you got to remember, this guy's the world record holder at this event.
But when you're the world record holder, there's only one way you can go, and everybody's going to be taking a shot at you. Brian is a good little driver. Chevrolet versus Dodge. Shafer keeps it straight in no man's land. That's the combination he's been looking for all year long.
A 493, Fred Shafer moves on to the semifinals. Brian Welch is done. Round number 2 is in the books. Tough trucks and a lot more monsters when we come back to Lima.
Welcome back to Lima, Ohio. It's time for the tough truck competitions. Now, a few years ago, the tough trucks were just for grin and giggles. You take your street truck, you kind of show off a little bit. But believe me, some of these guys are taking this sport real serious.
One of those guys, the hippie flyer, Stephen Bishop out of Pandora, Ohio. He can bring the crowd to his feet by the way he stands on it.
He's literally lining up with that jump in the crosshairs. The front end's about to collapse on him. Oh, this guy had that thing on kill, and it's supposed to be a street truck?
Oh, certainly a thrill a minute. Steve Conaway brings Thumper's toy to the tough truck area. And tough truck, maybe a broke truck.
No, what happened is the rear-wheel drive went away. That was a front-wheel drive only vehicle.
Give her a little gas. Dave Cosell, the Indianapolis driver, is no relation to Howard, brings his Jeep CJ7.
All right, Muhammad, let's see what you do on the jump now. That's my imitation of Howard Cosell. Not very good, but we're having fun.
Don't quit your day job.
No, sir.
Over the big jump, slams her down hard. Now the tailgate's been broke the whole way around. And
whew. Now this is my favorite guy, Dwayne the Deadhead Dude. He's out of Springfield, Ohio. And who else is from Springfield?
The Simpson. That's right.
That's right, dude.
Well, the Jerry Garcia of Tough Trucking. Take a look at him going over the bumps right now.
Got a nice turn signal on, so he's being courteous.
We're turning right turn, so everybody can know about it. He's got to get himself lined up straight, though.
Don't want to panic you, Dave, but that was a left turn signal. Here we go to the jump. And old Dwayne finds a new way to scramble his brains, and it's not with rock and roll.
Thomas White, our next competitor in the 80 Jeep Cherokee. Take a look here. He's got a good sponsor just in case. It's AAA Collision.
Oh, he might need it after that. Man. But the old Jeep kept right on going. So.
Well, it certainly did. There you go. 822-9842 if you need a lift after the tough truck competition. I don't think he's going to need one this time around.
No, he's not. But Bryce Hill comes out in the big track's the name of it. Almost too stiff a suspension. Look at that bounce. He bounces over the tire. Now, the crowd likes that. They get into this.
But what about Steve Sanquinetta, the only driver out here in a car? The Skylark. Oh, front end suspension damage there. You can see that front left tire turned in a little bit.
Yeah, he completely collapsed the front end on him. Meanwhile, while all the tough truck competition is going on one side of the track, there was a mad thrash going on around the Rampage vehicle. Prior to the semifinals, they found out that they had a starter problem also. They only had 3 minutes to get it fixed.
Well, the Rampage had no problem taking out Overkill in round 2. Todd cuts a good light, runs a good time, a 4.83. That proved this Dodge certainly was a player.
But you only have 3 minutes to fix the vehicle. The question is, when does the 3 minutes start? From the time your competitor goes to line or from the time you get in your truck to go racing?
You can see the work going on back there. Listen to the sparks as they try to get this truck started. The time limit is up. Todd does not make the call, and Army catches up with him.
Todd, rules are rules. The 3 minute limit caught you here. What was the problem?
I've got no power to my ignition key. Go to start it. I've got power to all my dash. My gauges are on, but I have no power to the key. So turn the motor over.
Boy, a tough break on a day when the Dodge looked like they all had it ironed out. A little gremlin jumps up and bites you. Some days it's better to be luckier than good.
So the 50-cent part beats Todd Frolik. He gives up the spot to Overkill, who's reinstated to face Bigfoot in the semifinal pair. The other bracket, the Barefoot Dodge of Fred Shafer. He'll be going up against Mark Hall's Executioner, the GMC you see right here. Army, he's one of our privateers in the sport, just trying to get to each race each week.
Yeah, he and his brother Mark, and Mark does the driving. Tim is the crew chief on it. They run just as hard as anybody, and they're representing the Chevrolet camp or the General Motors camp in this lineup. You got Dodge, Ford, and Chevrolet still in the competition.
Of course, Fred Shafer's been having a problem keeping the Barefoot Dodge straight. He did so in the last round. Let's see if he can do it right now in our semifinal round. Fred Shafer going up against the Executioner.
Oh, yeah. Shafer has found the chassis setup. Horsepower has never been a problem with that vehicle. The Hemi makes all the horsepower. The number 469 tells it all. If he can keep it straight, he can make it tough on you. Speaking of tough on you, Overkill gets the break he's been looking for, but he's got to go against the Ford of Dan Runte, and I don't think it's bothered Dabney. As a matter of fact, Kirk Dabney has always liked to beat up on the big guys. Let's see if he can do it now. Dave?
Fred Shafer, the big Barefoot, lots of horsepower. Hey, Dodge is in their first final this year.
I think that was my straightest run so far this weekend. I feel real good about it. The truck's running real good.
Well, Dan Runte and Kirk Dabney, semifinals. Who's going to be going against the Dodge? We know it's going to be a Ford. The question will be which one. Your current national record holder and past winner, Runte, steps in the lane closest to us. The starter gets both of them in the lanes. Dabney's ready to go. Starter waiting patiently. It's a sight game. Both of them are trying to outsight the other before they move into the final lanes. Bigfoot takes a win. He had a good bounce on the end, kept it close to the ground, a 484. His number's not as good as the Dodge. We might be setting up a little drama here as the Ford goes against the Dodge in the final. Replay comes up on the screen. Dabney actually moved first, but he stayed in the air longer. Bigfoot got down on the ground. See, Bigfoot's making horsepower now in no man's land. The final launch. And Runte bounces over the finish line to set up a Dodge Ford final.
Dan, a 484 against Overkill. You're heading into the finals again.
Dan, we're going back there. You know, it's hard to come out and do this well. I owe a lot of thanks to the crew. Ford Bigfoot's working well. We got a lot of people behind us. It's going fast and running so consistent we can't stand it. We're just going to go to the finals and see if we can't pull another one out of here.
Speaking of finals, that's what's coming up next. Dodge and Ford from Lima, Ohio. Stay tuned. It's going to be a war.
Look out, you're headed for a wild ride where there's lots of crashing, smashing, and splashing that's full of muck, mud, and mayhem. It's wild. It's outrageous. It's a crash course from the School of Hard Knocks, TNN Motor Madness 20.
For those of you who like to take home a little grit in your teeth and mud in your hair after a day of motorsports, we have the tape for you. Look out, cover the furniture before popping this baby in the VCR. It's Shake, Battle, and Roll 4. The latest installment of this popular series from Diamond P Sports delivers all the hard knocks from the world of monster trucks and mud racing. And also features the heavy right-footed action of the tough truck competition where bravado wins out over common sense virtually every time. To get your copy of Shake, Battle, and Roll 4, call 1-800-952-7878 or send $19.95 plus shipping and handling to the address shown on your screen. Visa, Master, or Discover cards are accepted. That's 1-800-952-7878 for Shake, Battle, and Roll 4.
The four-wheel jamborees are part of the Special Events Performance Series featuring a weekend of four-wheel fun. There's the manufacturer's midway, or check out all the chrome and polish of the show and shine competition. Contact the Special Events Promotion Company to find out more about the jamborees and other Special Events Performance Series events.
Fans enjoy the activities on the midway. Here's Dave with a truck I know you're going to enjoy.
Over in the show and shine area, we find this rolling memorial to war veterans all across the United States. Comes courtesy of Rick LeGros out of New York. It's this 1988 Longfoot truck. It's a Ford F-350 with crew cab. And Rick, tell us about the inspiration behind this mural.
Well, the artist, Gary Gufford, and I got together with some veterans and discussed ideas and thoughts that would create some feelings of what it was like. And naturally, we incorporated things that were important to them, their helmet, the idea of the helicopters and the jets always helping them out, the fact that they were always in the water, some of the fears of being shot at, things like that. And we tried to create a montage that would, give you Vietnam in an artist's point of view.
And that's not the only paint scheme on this big truck either.
No, we tried to create things like the American flag, the POW MIA, and with the barbed wire, things that also related to them, especially over in the war corps.
Of course, the best part about this, people don't got to not only come to a show to see it, it's driven daily.
Yes, we drive it to all the shows. It's, something that's completely usable, completely functional, something you can enjoy. And it's like, a lot of people worked on, a lot of people helped, and we just tried to make it so it's functional, and at the same time is something people will enjoy to look at and enjoy.
Well, being a Vietnam vet, I appreciate all the energy and effort that's gone into it. A lot of the judges did, too. They gave the New York native best paint and graphics, best Ford, and best full-size 88 through 97.
Well, time now to move to our final event. Dan Runte up against Paul Shafer. And you got to remember, this battle started out even before round one, with each team claiming the other was running hopped-up fuel. Each lost a teammate along the way. Meagher in the Hulkster was DQ'd for going out of bounds. Todd Frolik couldn't make the call for the final four, but it still points to a Ford-Dodge showdown.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you something else. These people don't like each other. Okay, let's lay it on the line. This is a real war coming up. The first salvo has been fired in this war. Runte scored. Let's see what the Dodge can do with him now.
Well, Team Bearfoot looks on as Rick Rice gets ready to turn them loose. Fred Shafer and Dan Runte, today's Penda Points final.
All right, the enthusiasm, you can tell who won it. Dan Runte, a 483. The crew's excitement shows that he takes a win. Shafer drops off. He goes to a 506, so not able to put the horsepower down he wanted to. Watch the truck attitude over the first jump. The Dodge kind of noses down. Look at Bigfoot. He's still up in the air. Now no man's land. They're both picking up on the throttle, and Runte literally flies to the finish line. The Dodge touches down first after the second jump. Doesn't make any difference. The Ford is definitely on his way.
Dan Runte, a 483 as the Bigfoot Ford makes it 2 for 2.
Like I said, I can't really say a whole bunch. Bigfoot Ford's working good. Mac Tools has helped us out a bunch here this weekend. We did have some problems. I got a great crew and a great boss. I mean, I can't say enough about it. It's just been an outstanding weekend. I'm happy as all get out.
Corporate battle round 1 goes to the Fords.
Now, we need to do something with him in front of that backdrop. Fred, something let go in no man's land. We understand a malfunction in the blower.
Yeah, it was. The snout on the blower broke off Army. I mean, these Dodges have been putting the numbers down. We know we got the fastest 2 trucks here. We just got to get the little bugs out and the little bitty problems out. We got a good, strong team here. It's team effort.
Well, the standings after the second event here in Lima finds Dan Runte opening up an even bigger lead. Eric Meagher, the other Ford teammate, runs in second, followed by the Dodgers of Todd Frolik and Fred Shafer. Mark Hall rounds out the top 5. Congratulations.
Well, there are 2 of the big pieces to this winning puzzle. Gary Saline on the left, the engine man. He was shaking hands with Jim Kramer, the operations director. Ford, yeah, number 1 today. Let's see if they can stay there. But there was a war of another kind going on the other side of the midway in the show and shine category, Dave.
And it didn't even feature a race, just a chance to pick up some plaques and hardware like this beautiful trophy here. Mark Miller was one of those guys. He picked up the first place award for the favorite Ford.
Yeah, Paul Smith in a black 89 Toyota. He and his buddies, the Flying Burrito Brothers, they go down here with most functional show vehicle.
The red 89 4x4, the best classic 4x4, the event belonging to Shane Tickle.
You know, this is a neat award here. The photographers can pick awards they like. They pick brothers, John and Tom Belcher, photographer's favorite.
Well, we sure had a lot of fun here in Lima. In the monster trucks, it was all Ford once again. For Army Armstrong, I'm Dave Reed. We'll see you again next week on